introduction. It's really for me a real delight and an honor to be with you all this afternoon. And I couldn't ask for a more beautiful day. I lived in Milwaukee for it seems like hundreds of years. I live in Washington now, and I still cherish these sunny, breezy Midwestern days, and thank you for providing me one. I know you could have done otherwise. I've been in Minnesota on other occasions. You know, I spent a weekend in Detroit talking about Minnesota, talking a little about Bruce and Sharon Shelsky. I had the privilege of being at the installation ceremony for a gentleman by the name of Antoine Garibaldi, who was the first African American and the first layperson to be installed as the president of the University of Detroit Mercy. And we spent some moments talking about the progressive traditions and values and ideals that have grown up in the state of Minnesota. We talked a little bit about Hubert Humphrey and what he represented, not just for Minnesota, not just for the Midwest, but for all of this country. I'd like to think that Bruce and Sharon very much personified and reflected those progressive values and ideals that made this country great and certainly made this part of the United States very productive. I had the joy of meeting the Shelskys in the early 70s. At the time, my son was probably, well, he wasn't school age, that is, he wasn't in school. So I don't know, I guess that makes him 5, I suppose, or maybe 4. But I was a very daring day. And so I decided to bring him to Minnesota for a Mayock meeting here in Minnesota with me. He'd always said, "Dad, where are you going?" So I said, "Well, come on." And it turned out that was his first airplane ride. It was a big red Northwest Airlines, big junk on that. We flew up here to Minnesota, and we had a great day, and I met Bruce and Sharon. I especially met Sharon, because Sharon, you may remember, you helped me control Michael that day. Sharon and I were having lunch today. She said, "How's Michael?" I said, "Well, he's quite grown, Sharon. He's 41 or 40, and he has 3 children, and he's a lawyer." So I said, "So you see how long I've known him, and really, it's been a splendid, splendid relationship." You know, the thing about the Shelskys is this. They understood the work of equal educational opportunity. They understood the importance of personalizing services, being intentional, being comprehensive, taking a holistic perspective in working with low-income first generation and disabled students. But they also understood something else, which a lot of people in our so-called do-good profession don't seem to understand. And that is they understood advocacy. And they knew how to combine service with advocacy. And understood that they were proxies for individuals who could not represent themselves and certainly couldn't represent their children, who had no voice. And the Shelskys, for decades, were not only the people who were providing the service, they also provided the voice, the advocacy for these students. And that I want to commend. They were energetic, and they were aggressive. And in being so, I believe they created a culture of activism for those of us who work in educational opportunity programs, not only in Minnesota, but in Wisconsin and Iowa and this whole northern tier of the United States. I was told, and I'm sorry I wasn't there, that the Minnesota-Wisconsin Trio people just concluded a meeting in Duluth, and there were over 200 people there, close to 300 folks. Well, let me tell you, right after I brought Michael up to Minneapolis for the meeting I just described, I came up about 5 years later for another meeting of the Minnesota Trio group, and that meeting was held in the Holiday Inn in Brainerd. And guess how many people were around the pool when we met? 12. 12 folks. And these weren't 12 people relaxing and the others were off in the hall. This was the whole meeting. 12 of us sitting around the pool. None of us were there getting water. Anyway. They really people like Ron McKinley and John Westby and Barry Yoakum and Betty Crist and others really made this state grow and embrace the notion of equal educational opportunity. They had, obviously, a commitment and love for each other, which we've all witnessed over the years. This deep love and affection for each other. I watched them have lunch together. They're actually eating out each other's plates. I've been there 43 years and I don't do that with freedom. I said, wow, go y'all. But equally important, and maybe more importantly, they have a love for other people's children. Other people's children. Not their cousins and nieces and sisters and neighbors, but other people, the people who live over there and behind this building or 100 miles away. And oftentimes in some very difficult and torturous circumstances. That's who they are. And yes, they helped this university stand tall. When the Council for Opportunity Education got off the ground in 1981, we ran into some very serious financial problems. And about 3 years later, we said, well, gee, the only way we're going to get out of this mess is we're going to have to turn to the colleges and universities for support. And we created a category we called institutional members. But we needed some courageous college presidents to take the lead. And 10 presidents did, and sent a letter out across the country. They were the first college and university to join the Council for Opportunity Education. And one of those presidents was President McGraw, who was here in Minnesota. The other was Jerry Bach. And I forget who the 8 others were, but I'll never forget President McGraw and President Bach. That's the kind of leadership that we got from the University of Minnesota, but we got that leadership from Dr. McGraw because we got the leadership from Bruce and Sharon Shelsky. Again, thank you all. They were the only trio couple in the whole of the United States in the last 45 years to win the highest award that the trio community offers each year at its annual conference, called the Walter O. Mason Jr. Award. Walter O. Mason was the godfather of the trio movement, the former Tuskegee pilot. His mother was African, his father was African American, his mother was Native American. He was from Oklahoma. He fought in World War II. He was in Italy. He was in the Pacific. And he inspired us to organize and keep these programs alive. So we have this award, our most prestigious, that we give each year, and Bruce and Sharon received that award as a couple, and again, the twins, just as David pointed out. Let me end by saying that this is the end of an era. And I must tell you, I'm kind of sad. I had some heavy feelings coming up here. I'm glad I'm here. But let me just end by saying this. Your example challenges all of us. Thank you, Bruce. Thank you, Sharon.